Welcome to the Consummate Athlete Podcast, where we explore what it means to be a well-rounded, happy, goal-crushing athlete. Every week, myself, sports journalist Molly Herford, and cycling coach and kinesiologist Peter Glassford interview experts and chat through all of your training questions. We're excited to have you along for the ride. Hello. Welcome back to the Consummate Athlete Podcast. We are just in author extravaganza right now, but I'm very excited about it. Peter, how's it going?
It's going well. Yeah, I'm excited for this new book we're going to talk about and talk with Stevie Lynn Smith today about this new book, Power Up.
Yes, Power Up, a young woman's guide to winning with sports nutrition is officially out now, out in the world, available. And this is a book that we published with Strong Girl Publishing. Stevie Lynn Smith, registered dietitian, board certified sports nutrition expert, and I co-wrote this book, and it's really designed to explain everything from nutrition basics, like very nutrition 101, the stuff that you should learn in school, that you assume you learned in school, but you probably didn't learn in school, all the way up to the very nuanced, ins and outs of sports nutrition, stuff about relative energy deficiency in sport, hormones, sleep, kind of all of the important stuff, but all written in, this book that's really designed for athletes. I'm going to say like 13 to 25. So written in really simple language, really breaking down the concepts. So it's for them, but I also think it's great for parents, coaches, anyone that works with young women athletes, basically.
Yeah, certainly I can think of several parents that I work with and coach them, but then they have these younger daughters, especially who are coming up and are maybe 9, 10, 11, 12, and then they do keep getting older. So yeah, I could see them reading it and then passing it on over the years, right, as they get old enough to read it or have questions that they want to look into.
Yeah, exactly. I think even for parents, it's good for them to read it just to kind of understand the difference between what makes sense for, 40-year-old, 45-year-old woman who's maybe in that perimenopause phase versus their 16-year-old daughter who's racing cross country. I think we tend to think of nutrition as a bit of a applies to everyone thing where here's our good food, here's our bad food. I'm using so many air quotes around that as I say it. And this book really kind of digs into why that's not necessarily the case.
And I would say probably a lot of adults, but certainly I would say there's a lot of moms out there, a lot of women who now are raising these young women who unfortunately didn't get the chance to be high-end athletes and have that type of work capacity. And so you're trying to prescribe out of your own autobiography where when I was little, this is what I ate. And we have all our neuroses around food. But then, it's some of these young women are putting in the miles. And so we need to fuel that. And so this is where this book can be very helpful this is the type of fueling that we need. These are the signs to look for that if we're missing the mark on fueling.
Yeah. And I would say if you have a young woman athlete in your life, we actually did an Instagram live to launch the book. So you have to go back in our Strong Girl Publishing feed back to November 11th. We had Stevie on, we had me on, and we had Misha Powell, track Olympian and author of Sprinting Through Setbacks on. And we talked about what bad advice we'd gotten when we were younger, what myths we believed when we were younger, and a bunch of the kind of basics of signs that you're maybe underfueling, even some stuff about how to switch your fueling for the winter. So definitely that one's more young woman focused. So if you're listening to this and you do have a young woman and you're thinking, okay, I want to get the book, definitely have them check out that video as well if they're more video
And I think I'll put a note here to find the direct link to that. I'm sure we can find a direct link to so people aren't having to hunt around the Instagram world.
Well, you should hunt around the Strong Girl Publishing Instagram while you're there. But yeah, today's episode, we're talking with Stevie, not just about Power Up. We're definitely talking a fair bit about that, but we are talking about some of the standard nutrition questions that all of us have, especially as we head into holiday season, as we head into cold weather, as we head into indoor training season. There are some, shifts that are happening, some questions that come up pretty much every year. And Stevie and I are going to get into all of those in this episode. But before we do, quick break to talk about our sponsor over at Payable.
That's right. The Payable form of the week.
You got it. So this week, a couple weeks ago, when we were talking to author Marley Blonsky, I mentioned the Payable form of the week was the one that I used down at Bentonville for the Big Sugar Expo to sell books. This time I'm talking about actually that same form, but we used it for the launch party for Stevie's book, Power Up. at the Pace Run Studio in Buffalo, New York. So the cool thing about the payable form is it's so easy to edit. So that's why this one is also, it's making form of the week for the second time, because for this launch party, we changed the form up. The books that we had for sale were different. The merch that we had was different. And it took me about 2 seconds to go in and quickly change things around so that as we were collecting payments for whether it was a book or a t-shirt, it was all just right there in this payable form. If we had wanted to charge for beer or wine or non-alcoholic drinks or whatever, I could have just added that in about 10 seconds. So it is so simple to use, and it makes life very easy when you're trying to take payments and you don't do it that frequently.
Yeah, and anyone, this is going into like a Square or a PayPal account eventually. You have a few options in that respect, but like it is very nice. You have a spreadsheet, and then you have that report as well, that if you are someone who has to do some reporting on the back end, the accountants seem to really like. They have a PayPal or a Square report. They have a spreadsheet that sort of details it. So it's very clean from that perspective as well, if you have to do something with all these sales once you make them.
Yeah, exactly. And you can find out more and grab all of our favorite templates over at payableapps.com/athlete. Again, payableapps.com/athlete, and we'll include a link to that in the show notes. All right, let's get into this with Stevie Lynn Smith, probably our most recurring guest at this point on.
Well, competing for it for sure. Yeah, we'll have to do a count on that.
All right, enjoy. Consummate Athlete Podcast. Back with, we realized I think you're actually like our most frequent returning guest.
I'm honored.
I mean, I feel like it's so funny that this is the first time we're actually doing this podcast in person, and it's the first time we've met in person. But I feel like we're like siblings at this point.
Yeah, for
it's
sure.
Such a weird, like long-term relationship. Our book just came out last week. Power Up, A Young Woman's Guide to Winning with Sports Nutrition is available now. We're doing this right before the launch party.
Let's go.
Which is happening at Pace Buffalo. I'm so excited. We've got charcuterie. We've got cupcakes. We are leaning into the nutrition of it all.
Yeah, we got to have snacks.
Yeah. So, I mean, how are you feeling with the book coming out?
Well, as you know, it's been a little chaotic week over here with some dog drama, but I'm really excited. I'm excited to celebrate tonight.
Yes. And in some ways, honestly, the side drama is almost better on launch week because you can't be stressed. Like, I feel like that all meant that you didn't even really think about the fact, now I'm going to freak you out, that books are landing in mailboxes and people are reading them. So,
yeah, you did just freak me out, but that's okay.
Apologies. I mean, look, everyone's going to love it. We've gotten nothing but like fantastic, the people that have read it already, that pre-read it, really liked it. I think this book is really going to be helpful for young women athletes, but also for the parents, the coaches, the other kind of stakeholders in youth sports. So I'm very proud of you. I'm very proud of us. I'm very excited about this book.
Yeah, me too. And thank you for being the best co-author.
So exciting. This was so much fun to do. And I feel like this is like the most fun I've had writing a book. And I shouldn't say that because I know some people that I've written books with listen to this podcast. So if you heard that, I swear you're my favorite. I'll make it up to you. But this was really like just a really fun process. So the book is broken down into kind of a conversation of basic nutrition. Then we get into like sports specific. Then we get even more specific with some of the nitty gritty, like things that come as you're kind of getting more and more into your athletic career. And then we have some recipes, some case studies, some, grocery lists, tips for grocery shopping, tips for cooking, whether you're at home, your first apartment, your dorm, all that kind of fun stuff. So out of all of them, what was your favorite part of the book?
Ooh, that's a great question. I have a hard time picking favorites because I feel like when it comes to nutrition, especially sports nutrition for people, I can justify anything as being important. It's like when people are like, when should I work on my nutrition? I was like, I could justify off-season, in-season base training all the time. But I think, since I guess I have to pick something, I think some of the case studies and examples and lists and some of that like very actionable things that makes it very relatable. I feel like, yes, there's lots of great information out there in the sports nutrition world, but taking that evidence-based nutrition information, but then is specifically speaking to this audience, a younger audience, and being like, but this is how you can apply it to your everyday life that's always important to anybody. But I think that's one of my favorite parts about this book.
I agree. I really like that part. That's, to me, a really fun part of it. And honestly, I think it really was important to do because it plays against some of the crap that we were served as young women athletes when it was, whether it was Triathlete Magazine or whoever was doing like day in the life of a pro, and they'd be like, I had air for breakfast.
I had one Cliff Block on my 4-hour run.
Yeah, and then a salad for my recovery meal with no vinegar on the side.
Oh, gosh. No, maybe a crouton if I'm feeling spicy.
One square of dark chocolate. We were fed so much of that. So I think to kind of do the antidote to that, to be like, no, this is actually how much food. It's a lot of food, as it turns out. And it's eaten throughout the day. Writing this book was also great for me because it really reminded me to hone in on my nutrition side of things, which mostly just meant eating more. We have in the intro, we have kind of the key principles of the book. And I really, really need to live by much better than I do. When training goes up, eating goes up.
That one's so hard because like I feel like the training increases, especially if you're used to training a lot, kind of like you are and I am, that like we'll look and be like, oh, well, it's just like an hour and a half more in volume. It's not that big, air quotes, not that big of a deal. But then when it keeps stacking up week after week, I mean, I work in a 4-week cycle, so I'm 3 up, 1 down. So like if you think about it, you stack 3 big weeks. That down week, of course, we need to keep up with the nutrition to give our body the resources to see the adaptations to all of the training. You do that for a couple months and you're falling short every single day, and then you're hitting a build each 3-week cycle, you're up. That will catch up with you quickly. So I hear you. I've been a little locked out myself. When I ran the marathon earlier this year, I was super locked in. And then over the summer, it got a little bit hard. So I understand.
Well, especially, and we were going to get into this later, but I think this lends itself to bringing this up right now, this is the time of year where it gets extremely hard to stick to any kind of consistent eating schedule. I mean, for me right now, like I'm just in the middle of, I was in Toronto doing some work stuff. I'm here. Yeah. I will tell you my fueling the past 48 hours has been atrocious as a result, which could have totally been mitigated. And I willfully have ignored that. It's a couple off days. It's fine. I'll get back on it. But we are entering the holiday season. Yeah. Which is when, we said before we started recording, that's when people go off the rails in one of two directions, right? Yep. You have the panic about the holiday eating, where people get super stressed about how much they need to, like, oh, geez, I'm going to have all these holiday parties I have to deal with. I have this, I have this, I have this. Or you have the people that are like, yeah, it's the holidays. Yeah. Time to go hard. So how do you help people contend with this?
Yeah. So of course, being a frequent flyer on this podcast, you probably won't be too surprised with my answer if you're a longtime listener. But it's about finding that middle ground. A lot of the work is some of the hard work around it, and kind of like, what is our relationship with food and exercise? If we're feeling really anxious about food and the food that's going to be at an event, that is one of those signs that you're not eating enough. So a great place to start, if you feel a lot of anxiety about that, is gradually increasing your food throughout the day. And I know back when I was growing up, the big thing was, I'm going to save, air quotes, save all my calories for later. Let me just drink coffee and stave off hunger and save all my calories for later. I would not, negative 100 out of 10 recommend that. That is usually when people then, go off the rails. Obviously, we know in endurance athletes, there's lots of research about how detrimental within day energy deficits can be.
Right.
Yep. So there's like countless reasons, but if you feel that anxiety, or, you can't, like, even if it's not the holidays, if you literally can't stop thinking about food, that is a big red flag that you're not eating enough. So, of course, that's very individualized, exactly what you need to do, but always starting with eating a little bit more. It doesn't need to be crazy amounts. Thinking about, okay, maybe I eat oatmeal for breakfast every day. How can I make this a bowl of oatmeal for a better fueled athlete. Maybe you're adding peanut butter, using whole milk, adding chia, flax, your honey, whatever it is, rather than just plain boring sad oatmeal. You're just adding it a little bit more and kind of taking that pattern throughout the day. If you are a person who just goes hard, like at every holiday function, also not great. We want to be able to enjoy the foods and snacks and treats, but for that person, they're usually fall in the boat of like air quotes saving the calories for the day.
Yeah, like I feel like it shouldn't be that you fall on the charcuterie board.
I mean, I love me some charcuterie.
Oh, ditto. I will be heading directly towards it once we unpack it tonight.
But yes, it should not be kind of like this very intense like hyperfixation. And I tell clients that when we're at a social function or out to eat or something like that, we can enjoy our food, but like make it more of the background noise. The goal is that we want it to be background noise. It's there to enhance the experience, create connection, socialize, enjoy actually having a meal with friends, family, coworkers, whoever it is. And, you know, it shouldn't be this overpowering feeling or force in your mind. And one of like the very actionable things you can do is just please eat more, like eat breakfast, get a mix of carbs and enough protein, eat at consistent intervals. Like how consistent depends on each person, whether it's every 2 hours or every 4 hours, but try to not skip meals, because at the end of the day, even if you don't feel growling in your stomach, there are other signs of hunger that is not your stomach just growling. And then once you hit that charcuterie board or whatever it is, then your body's like, boom, let's go. We are actually starving. And then you tend to overeat, then you feel unwell. You don't eat until midday the next day, and it very easily becomes that cycle.
100%. Yeah. I'm a big fan of pre-gaming the holiday party now.
For sure.
But like not as you would have at like 21 going to the club. I'm talking about I pre-game with like a protein shake or like a sandwich or something.
Yep. Yeah. It's funny. Before the launch party tonight, because it's me, of course, I'm like, do I have enough food? Does everybody know that like it's going to be just like light snacks? Like, and my friends are like, no one is expecting you to serve a meal, but I told some people, I'm like, make sure you eat before you come to the party so you're not too hungry.
Yeah, I've also had to warn myself about that. And if you think I don't have my protein shake bottle out in the van, like ready to pregame,
She's locking back in.
Remind me to mix that before we go.
Okay.
Gotta add some water. Otherwise, we're just scooping powder trying to...
Oh, no dry scooping protein. We won't allow it.
No, that's bad. That's
sad.
pushing it. That's
sad
a bridge
protein
too
shake.
far. Yeah. No sad salads, no sad protein shakes.
No, thank you.
Okay, so all of that sounds like really TLDR. Enjoy the holiday party, but like if you're stressed in either direction about the food, it might be time to look at your overarching relationship with food, or at minimum have a snack before you go.
Yeah, and it's the concept that I talk about all the time, not just during the holidays. It's eat what you want, add what you need. And like,
Ooh, I like that.
yeah, over time, like it's very hard at first, but over time that gets easier. And then you don't find yourself going air quotes overboard on certain foods. You tend to drop the terminology air quotes cheat meal, right? Because you know you can have your pickle pizza, have some veggies with it.
Is someone bringing any of this pickle pizza to the party tonight?
Actually, it's funny you mentioned that, because yesterday I was sitting and I was doing some work, and my good friend Bo Riggs texted me because he had asked me the night before, is there anything I can bring to the party? And he just said, I'm bringing pickle pizza, because he knows I love it.
Oh, fantastic. I'm so excited for this.
It's so good.
I've never had pickle pizza. I want to be clear, but it sounds like two of my favorite things.
Your life is about to be changed.
Okay, can't wait.
Yep.
Can't wait. Okay, so you also mentioned that you know, when you're working with someone, you're kind of willing to look at it as like, okay, base season's here, time to get serious about nutrition.
Yeah.
Race season's here, time to get serious about nutrition. Off season's here, time to get serious about nutrition. And we don't mean serious like let's lock in and drop the calories. That is the opposite of what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But I think like the holidays, a lot of people hit this time of year, the off season, and kind of have, again, they really go one way or the other. You have the off-season time to lock in and lose weight, and I'm using air quotes around this.
Yeah.
Like, that's like the one side. The other side is like time to lock out and gain weight, because
Yeah.
that's like the cliche for cyclists, right?
Oh, for sure.
Off season, we put on like 10 to 15 pounds.
Yep.
And then off season, like for someone now, I think in the last few years has been off season. Cool. It's the chance to work on body comp
Yeah.
because I'm not training as heavily. So how do you walk someone through it? Obviously it depends, but let's maybe start with I'm going to go ham and gain 15 pounds, especially again, thinking about our audience, masters athletes who don't have a ton of time. They're not training like pro tour athletes. So why are we looking at our scale like pro tour athletes?
Yeah. So honestly, if anyone is in the mindset, if they either need to gain or believe they need to lose weight, it's first seeing, okay, why do we feel like that? Where are we at right now? How did we finish our season? Did we finish, even if you're not technically racing, but did you finish your, outdoor riding season feeling tired, unmotivated, burnt out, not performing like you wanted to? That's where I'd be a little bit wary of like, okay, let's be a little bit more calculated, not restrictive of it's okay to maybe gain some weight, but let's see how we're going to go about doing this and not just throwing whatever we want in our faces, but can we add in, obviously the foods we enjoy, but more nutrient dense foods that have micronutrients. Omega-3s always come to top of mind, like those healthy fats that are also going to have some anti-inflammatory properties. Give us those other little key players in allowing, soft tissue muscle repair to happen along with that weight gain. I'm thinking about when I worked with a lot of Ironman athletes, like gaining weight in the off season, if they were very lean, was always something encouraged. And, that can help, with some of the restoration of hormone function.
Ooh, good point.
It's a big one. So if you're on the leaner side, this can be a very positive thing to help you recover, repair during that little bit of downtime, but we don't need to just go hard.
And I assume we're talking about tiny increases. We are not talking about like putting on 20 pounds. We're talking like a few here.
A few pounds for sure. Typically I'm thinking in my head, like for those who need to gain weight, it's not usually anything crazy significant that we're looking for weight gain wise, unless they were very thin. We were seeing a lot of injuries. Maybe we were struggling with hormone health, male or female. On that end, I like to remind my male, masters athletes who are all concerned about their testosterone levels, because we know those are decreasing with age. It's not lifting weights or eating more protein or whatever you might hear. Often, especially in this population, we need to make sure we're eating enough, that we're getting enough sleep, we're getting enough recovery, and doing those basics, because that's what's going to help support hormone function. It's like people think about it in female athletes with a loss of period. What's the biggest thing you have to move the needle? It's energy and that energy balance. Why would it be any different for male sex hormones?
Totally. Yeah. Makes complete sense.
Yep.
Now, here's like my maybe like one question after that is, with masters athletes especially, and it may be especially women, but I think it's men too. Have you seen, does it get harder as we get older to drop that weight once we've put it back on? Because I think this is where like the cyclist who doesn't necessarily need to lose weight doesn't need to gain weight in the off season, right? They didn't really like lean out super hard for the actual season. They're maybe even like at their reasonable, like quote unquote, like ideal, like they're comfortable.
Ideal. Yeah.
Should we maybe just not think about gaining weight and just like think about eating instead of like weight?
Yeah, I mean, I am not very much a weight-centric provider to begin with.
Which is a huge thing in the book, side note. We are so in favor of like getting rid of the scale.
Yeah.
I think we probably say, I've never done like a find on it, but I think we probably say like get rid of your scale or stop looking at your scale probably like 20 times in the book.
Yep. Yes. So we shouldn't focus on going hard on gaining weight. I like to think about weight and weight changes as a side effect, no matter what direction it's going, if that makes sense.
Totally. Yeah.
So if we're gaining weight in training, which is very often what can happen for some people, endurance athletes, I think about people running marathons. They're like, oh, I did this to lose weight and I gained weight. And I was like, that means, well, it could mean a few things, But, oftentimes, one, it can be that you're fueling your body appropriately, or two, you're fueling your body inappropriately. And we're seeing weight gain as a result from that. But thinking about going back to your actual question is that we want to focus first on, okay, let me figure out what my nutrition pattern should be during the day to support my overall health and recovery. And then if I gain 2, 5, 6 pounds because of that with the decreased training load, that's okay. Again, seeing it as more of a side effect and looking at those indicators of optimal functioning, like how is your sleep? Okay, did you gain 5 pounds and now your sleep is so much better and you're feeling more energized and there's not brain fog, and what workouts you're doing, prioritizing you're recovering well? Great. That was probably a good amount of weight restoration for you. I know it's a little bit harder sometimes in that male athlete because it's not like a female athlete who lost their period. Not that you can't be in low energy and have... Wait, you can be in low energy and still have a period, but that's usually like a bigger indicator. It's a little bit easier to track. So for those male athletes, we don't have like that big flashing light. So just looking at especially like sleep and mental health and cognitive function, under eating and not getting enough is will very much like increase feelings of anxiety, depression, irritability, like difficulty concentrating. So if you are there and you just add a little bit more, decrease the training load, we see your weight go up 5, 6 pounds, but you're feeling better. To me, that's an appropriate side effect of the actions you're taking.
Ooh, very nicely said. Yeah.
Thank you. That was a long-winded answer.
Yeah,
are you surprised?
That is a perfect answer. Well, when we started working on the book, I believe I told you long-winded answers only.
Okay.
So
yes.
we're doing great. That's the rule because it's easier to kind of catch part of it that makes sense for you. Like the long-winded is good. Okay. So all of that to say, you kind of led us into the other topic I wanted to ask, which is the unexpected warning signs of low energy availability, LEA, or relative energy deficiency in sport, REDS. Mm-hmm. So we know the loss of period. What are sort of and we just mentioned sleep, cognitive function, anything else come to mind, especially again for our masters audience, thinking with them?
Yeah, obviously we know REDS and LEA impact basically every body system. In this athlete, probably the mental health aspect in sleep is what you're going to see first. In any athlete, that's what you're going to see first when it starts to creep in. We can also see it in metabolic function. And when I say metabolic function, I always like to remind people that metabolism is much more than just losing or gaining weight. It is basically how your body operates and functions. So, in LEA and REDS, you can see a lot of lipid profile dysfunction, so elevated LDL. I have also seen a lot of male athletes, maybe not, well, I always get confused. Masters, I feel like people starts at different ages, but I've seen mid-40s males, which some people consider masters.
I would consider that basically when I say masters, I just mean they're no longer like 25-year-olds.
Okay.
And they're no longer professional athletes who are training at that's their job.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Because I'm like, I've seen a good number about mid-40s males who have blood sugar dysregulation.
Oh, I actually had wanted to ask you about that because I think that's something we don't talk about enough and is becoming increasingly common. Like I know it's been an issue for me.
Yeah.
Like I've been like close on I've used Inside Tracker. We've talked about this before. And like my blood sugar has never been in like the red zone, but it's in like the high yellow a few times. Granted, part of this goes to the issue with blood testing for athletes who are training while they blood test, and they really struggle with the 12-hour fast prior to testing and eat a lot the day before and have possibly spiked it, and it hasn't come back down yet, but that's beside the point.
Yes. 100%. Yeah, so this is something I see, that little elevated A1. Some it's a elevated hemoglobin A1C, other it's slightly elevated blood glucose levels, fasting blood glucose levels. When I was in Ironman training, my blood glucose levels were never like high, but they were slightly unoptimized or suboptimal as well. And the past 5 or 6 years I haven't been Ironman training, I've still trained a lot. My blood sugar levels have been great and wonderful and grand. So there are a few reasons why we might see some of the A1C rises in athletes who are under fueling. Some of it is the stress hormones, right? Cortisol and adrenaline. When you're in low energy availability and you're doing intense exercises, it's going to raise both of those, which tell the liver to dump more glucose into the bloodstream while making the tissues less responsive to that, therefore raising A1C levels. There is some post-exercise insulin resistance as well when you're in the underfed state. And then some of it is red blood cell turnover as well, that when you are underfed, this is probably not so much the male masters athletes because it's usually hand in hand with iron deficiency anemia, but it's the turnover of red blood cells isn't as quick, meaning more of that glucose hangs out in the bloodstream longer. Yeah, I will have a number of athletes who they're like, oh, well, my A1C is slightly elevated, my fasting blood glucose, my doctor told me to eat less carbs, this and that. And the same thing goes with LDL levels. I see the LDL levels, I think, more in female athletes who are under fueling, but still male athletes are also susceptible to some of that dysfunction. And it's fun.
The irony, though, is that we get told to eat less carbs.
Yes, 100%. And I actually spoke at a conference last month that was, my focus was on LEA and REDS with a number of other great sports dietitians. And I only had 15 minutes. So I was, how much information can I give? And I'm like, there are sports medicine physicians in the room. There are PAs or NPs. And I was like, please stop telling these people to restrict more. Or please send them to a sports dietitian or a sports med physician who is familiar with this, because the regular advice doesn't cut it.
To me, it's like kind of shocking that a doctor can look at an athlete like that and be like, oh, well, this is elevated, so like carbs are bad. And you're like, okay, but I'm training 15, like it's wild.
And the other one that I have actually seen in a lot of male masters athletes is subclinical hypothyroidism is a big one too, where like maybe they go to their doctor and they're like, oh, you're fine. But when we're looking at the optimal ranges of TSH, T3 in particular, they're suboptimal. And that's going to, of course, contribute to your energy levels. Thyroid is key and critical in metabolism as well, how your body is going to break down and metabolize carbohydrates in particular, use energy. So those are some of the sneaky things. And it can be hard because, especially if you are in the position of you're under fueling and you're gaining weight.
Yep.
It's a big mind game and mental hurdle to then be heard to say, well, you need to eat more. And I can fully appreciate that. It's so counterintuitive. So that's really where I try to get the flip the script to we're giving our body resources, to just do our basic functions optionally, but then also see the training adaptations that we're putting in all this work for.
Yeah. So what would the timeline on that be? So someone says okay, you're probably right. I've been gaining weight because I'm in low energy availability. How long does it, and again, all caveating, it depends. But I mean, are we talking they're gonna feel better in a week, 2 weeks? They might start seeing weight loss in the next month, or at least a stop gaining weight. What would that look like typically?
Honestly, it depends. I've seen it on all different ranges. I have some people who start working with me and within 2 weeks, they're like, I'm feeling so much better.
I assume the feeling probably comes
The feeling comes
before.
first. It also depends how deep the hole they dug for themselves is, which is maybe there are a few things we can do to actually measure it. I think about saliva cortisol. If you've burnt yourself out so bad that your cortisol is in the tank, if I get those hormone levels back and we're oh yeah, your body is automatically just deactivating active cortisol and cortisone, you're just so shot. If I have something like that or really low hormone levels, I always tell people 6 months until you're really going to be in the clear. And you got to truly be ready to focus on you as the whole picture of, okay, and this is speaking from experience with my cortisol levels being completely shot. I'm thinking about my cortisol.
Not that I know
graph.
exactly what I'm talking about here, but
And it was like, okay. And it was the boring stuff and like the consistent of like, okay, I'm going to stop training for Ironman. I am really going to make sure I'm like getting light in the eyes first thing in the morning to get that cortisol awakening response. I am eating a full meal before I'm drinking coffee. I'm eating enough. I'm, really dialing all of those things in. But I would say I started to feel better in about 3 months, but like hormones, at least 6 months until you're like, oh, wow, I really fricked my body up a lot.
and I think this is like the mistake people make is they think like, okay, well, if it was that I am not eating enough, I should feel better instantly because I'm giving my body what it needs. But it's like, no, you might have to undo some stuff. So don't panic. Stay the course. See what happens.
And it's really, again, as someone who has been there and helped people go through it, it's very hard. But I think back to that time and I'm like, wow, I am so glad I got myself to the other side. It's like I couldn't even get on Zwift without a cup of coffee. Like I was literally dragging my corpse around, my bag of bones, as I like to call it.
I think that's actually probably a great indicator for our athlete population is like, can you do something in the morning without feeling like absolute crap, without the coffee, without...
Yes. And I am pro coffee. Do not get me wrong.
To be clear, pro coffee podcast.
Coffee,
if a coffee company wants to sponsor us...
Yeah. Hit me up.
Yeah.
I drink it every day, but even through, and I have an autoimmune condition, so like I'm also kind of dealing with that as well, but like I can make it 99% of my days getting up at 5:30 in the morning, doing my workouts, taking care of my dog, starting work without a cup of coffee till 10:30 in the morning. And to me, like that's a big indicator. If I'm like I am desperate for coffee, that's usually a red flag for me. And I tell this to my high schoolers all the way to my adults. If you need caffeine in the afternoon every day or most days, that's a good indicator that you need to eat more. That is your body asking for energy. And when we rely on caffeine solely, that is basically just putting energy on a credit card,
Ooh, I like energy on a credit card. And the interest rate's not good now.
Not great. In this economy?
You can't afford this.
Go eat a snack before you get your coffee is usually my rule. I mean, I even do it to myself. I'll be at my desk and I'll be like, I can't focus. I'm like, girl, get up, get a snack.
I think it's a good habit to get into for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so I do want to come back to, we were talking, the first kind of early warning sign of Red Us is this idea of, fractured sleep, bad sleep, vibes being off is really like the best way I can say this, because I wanted to flag this for parents who are listening and coaches who are listening. We wrote Power Up because I think a lot of those things can be attributed to your teenager being a teenager.
Yes.
And I think a lot of times parents and coaches will dismiss the mental signs and the sleep stuff with teens because it's like, oh, that's just how teenagers are.
Yeah. 100%.
Have you seen this?
I have 100% seen this happen, unfortunately. And yes, I mean, our teen athletes and teens just in general do need more sleep than the average adult. And that is important. So if we're seeing those sleep disturbances, that can really catch up quickly when we're thinking about injury risk, illness risk as well, missing the mark. It's just the energy needs and demands are so high for high school, college age athletes.
It's wild how many phases, especially women, like girls and women, go through in our lives, right? Like puberty, you're changing so much, so rapidly. You add sport on top of that. It is just such a stress on the system. I think isn't it 8 to 10 hours of sleep a night for teen athletes compared
and
to
me.
Also me, yeah.
As a 37-year-old woman.
People are shocked when I say how much I sleep. But yeah, if I don't get 8 hours minimum, I can't do what I do.
Last Friday I slept 9 hours. Last Saturday I slept 10 hours. And I was like, I am queen.
You can do so much.
So much.
I'm so much more productive. I'm so much faster. Like everything gets done if sleep is there. So
Honey
let's just get over this BS. Like I sleep 4 hours a night to be more productive. No, you're not. You're lying to yourself.
Yeah. Agree, 100%. But yeah, I always wonder about, and of course, I know there are so many factors that come to play, young adult to adult when it comes to sleep. Everybody has so much going on, so much to be anxious or thinking about or spinning on that it takes like a very good focus on that foundational stuff and good sleep time habits, which, I have some bad ones, but the girl loves her weighted blackout eye mask and her Sleepy Girl mocktail, magnesium and tart cherry juice every night. So,
ooh, I like that.
Yeah,
I should take that up. I've been looking for more of a mocktail type situation.
It's so good. I get the tart cherry juice concentrate because it's more cost effective. Because if I just get a bottle of tart cherry juice, it's like 2 servings. That'll last me 10 minutes.
Yeah. Okay, tart cherry juice. I like that. I used to have cranberry juice in the fridge, but then I realized I had it in there for like 3 years, and it was, I think, distilled at that point.
Oh, probably, yeah. That'll do some bad stuff.
Yeah, tart cherry though, that sounds delicious.
Oh yeah, and it can help potentially with sleep.
Perfect.
By increasing natural melatonin production.
Perfect. Okay, speaking of melatonin, I feel like there's been some stuff coming out lately about melatonin where like it's actually less good than we thought it was. So how do you think about like people taking it for sleep aid?
So I don't recommend that people take it for sleep. I never have. And honestly, I have, and I'm going to make a caveat, which is not your listener, but I think there is more research out in perimenopause and menopause about it because melatonin production decreases. So we'll put those people to the side because I haven't looked at the research on that's come out. But overall, in general, I do not recommend people take it. The only use cases I have used it for is when I work with crazy shift workers and we need to get... Yeah. So basically, only situations where we need to get their sleep and wake cycle back on a schedule where we're taking it like 30-ish minutes before we want to fall asleep for like maybe 2 to 3 nights to help get your body kind of back in that rhythm is where I've used it. But overall, as like a general basic thing we should use, no. Have you taken it?
Not really. Like I tried it a couple times, like when I was flying back and forth from Europe a lot. I would try to do it to mitigate a bit of the jet lag, but I never really found it that helpful. But I think it kind of goes into the same category as even the morning coffee, where it's like if you need to take it to get to sleep, we probably need to back out and see like what's going on above and beyond that, because there's probably something happening outside of it.
Yeah, definitely just a Band-Aid for sure. Also, it makes me so grumpy in the morning, and I am not a grumpy person.
That's true. I can attest to this.
I was like, I took it a few times and I'm like, oh no, this is not for me.
Don't like me like this. Okay, well, hopefully some of that was helpful for people who are thinking about this lower energy, and hopefully they're thinking about it for their young athletes as well. Okay, couple more quick hit ones here. We talk in the book a little bit about stuff like sweat rate, but I wanted to kind of go, a lot of people talk about their cycling computer is showing them how many calories they're burning, what their heart rate is, what their power is. We now have patches for sweat rate. It's very easy to have 18 devices on and get hit with so much information that is telling you precisely how much you, and I'm air quoting this, should be fueling. So how do you think about fueling and hydrating with all of these inputs? Are there any inputs that are worth looking at? Are there any that we should stop looking at? How do we think about this?
Okay, we should never look at calorie burn from our devices because there's so much research about how inaccurate it can be. We should also take our sleep tracking with a grain of salt as well. When it comes to like the sweat loss and sweat rate data, there are a few options that I have people use if we are concerned about their sweat and sodium concentration. So if they're like showing signs of being a saltier sweater, whether they're cramping or they have a lot of salt on their gear, if you feel like dizzy and lightheaded or like super zapped after your exercise, if we're having any sort of GI issues, I always like to look at sweat sodium concentration. Is actually now more of the trend is because salt has become such a thing, is that people are oversalting themselves and shitting their pants because of that.
Good to know. Good note.
People are oversalting themselves and giving GI issues because salt is having such a moment. So I do use things. I've used the H drop sensor. I've liked that. I've used that with local clients, like the level and sweat test patches. But often I am not having clients wear those all the time.
Right. So this is like a checking it kind of thing.
We're
not
checking
every single run. I'm like looking at the app, doing this whole thing.
No, we're going to check it a few times. I have them do indoor, outdoor. Right now while we're recording, it's like wintry. So in the summer, some of those local clients will probably tap back in for some summer readings just to see how they do with the humidity, of course, and see if we need to make any adjustments if they're going to be hot and humid racing. But yeah, that's way too much data, and data is cool and I like it, but it also then I found has people have less trust in what their body is telling them.
Totally. Like, oh, I was hungry, but this is saying I'm not burning that many calories.
Yes.
So I don't really need to fuel. A lot of air quotes around that, if anyone didn't read the sarcasm there. Okay. And last topic here, you kind of alluded to it there. Cold weather is happening. How should we be thinking about fueling? Because I told you this the other day. I'm atrocious at this, especially when it starts getting cold. I was like doing my long run. It's like 14 miles in. I'm like, I feel like crap. And then I was like, oh, right. Because you haven't taken a drink and your drink has all of your calories. So you have taken no food, no water. Yeah. Duh. You're bonked and dehydrated. You dummy.
Well, it's important to recognize our weaknesses and our one flaw, You're
right. It's the only flaw. Everyone heard it here.
So it's, our thirst mechanism is going to be altered in the cold. And this is where very much like having a hydration plan, whether it's setting an alert on your watch to drink every 10 to 15 minutes, that'll depend on your sweat rate. Honestly, my people with high sweat rates, we do that all the time so they can pace out their hourly hydration goal. Because you still are sweating. Even if it doesn't feel like it, your layers, it's cold, you can't feel your face. But then, once you stop, you're like, oh, wow, I sweat a lot. And now my sweat is drying and I'm getting really cold. So we still really need to hydrate well and also make sure that we are fueling well to get enough carbohydrates on. Your body does work a little bit harder in the cold to stay warm. So we want to make sure we have that and just finding a plan that works for you. So like Molly, if you forget to drink, obviously you still need fluids, but maybe we don't fully rely on liquid nutrition, is then you won't, you won't bonk.
No, you're totally right. This is the time of year I normally shift over to maple syrup in a flask.
Yep.
And for whatever reason, I did not. Oh, it was because we're out of maple syrup. It's unfortunately not the time of year to get maple syrup. We're still a ways from that.
Yeah.
So my stores are low. I need to hit Costco or something.
Yeah, you got to hit up Costco. So it's definitely still is important. And, there are tips like using warm liquid. I usually put my hydration vest underneath my jacket so everything doesn't freeze. So just doing some of those tips and tricks, it's just going to make you feel better and get through that. I mean, you're getting outside in the cold, so you should make it not completely miserable.
Yeah, it's non-sucky as you can, for sure. And yes, it's just it's those first couple that always catch me off guard, but I should know better at this point, you would think. But we need the reminders.
Gotta hit those alerts.
Yeah. Speaking of reminders, everyone should get the book so they have that as the reminder. So tell people where they can find you, follow you, get Power Up, etc.
Okay, well, of course, you can get Power Up at stronggirlpublishing.com. And you can find me on my corner of the internet at Stevie Lindland on Instagram. And you can check out my brand new website. Whoa! It's so beautiful at stevielinrd.com. And you can learn more about me and my dog and the work I do.
Love it. As always, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for tuning in to the Consummate Athlete podcast. If you want to hear more training, racing, and endurance sport advice, make sure you subscribe to the podcast and leave us a rating and review. You can also subscribe to our newsletter at consummateathlete.com for a weekly dose of inspiration and advice straight to your inbox.